Hello and welcome to the Voice of Influence webinar series where we explore the power of communication across careers and contexts. I am Dr. Ashwini, your host for this session, and I am joined by someone for whom each one of you have registered and showed up for this session, Nidhi Rajdar. She is an award winning journalist, editor, and educator with years of experience in shaping narratives and influencing public thought. Thank you, Nidhi, for accepting our invitation and being here. Welcome. So, the most popular question that has come up is: was there a moment in your life, in your early career, where you realized that it was not just good English or the way in which people talk that got others to listen to you, that kind of convinced them to get the work that you wanted to get it done?
Thank you so much for having me here on this webinar. I just want to start by saying that we're talking about why it's important to be a good communicator and how that helps you get ahead in life. And before I answer your specific question, I just, wanted to flag just a bigger issue here, which is that whatever profession you are in, whether you are in the arts or you are an engineer or a doctor or in the corporate world or you set up your own business or whether you're a media professional, the very foundation of any profession today is good communication. In fact, it's really funny because just the other day I was reading a study which looked at India's graduates and found that, for example, last year, more than 50% of India's graduates actually couldn't get good quality jobs because they were poor communicators. And I thought that that was a very startling statistic. I mean, they're all graduates and they've all got the degree. But what India is lacking is really good quality jobs that pay well. And part of the reason is that while people may have degrees and they may have studied a lot, etc., when it comes to their interpersonal skills, they're not very good. And so they don't end up getting hired in good positions. And that makes a big difference in what kind of career you actually end up being in. So that is just an example of why communication is so important. And it's important for many reasons. One is, of course, your interpersonal skills, how you deal with other people, how you speak to colleagues. You could be a team leader, you could be a manager, you could be somebody who is part of a team. But if you're not able to communicate your ideas and your thoughts and ask questions, deal with problems, you will not be able to work in any office environment, in any environment that requires teamwork. And all of us do require that at some point in our lives. So one is, that interpersonal, especially when you are a manager, etc., and you have to look at everybody's needs and their issues and their difficulties. And, so communication at an interpersonal level becomes important. And then communication for your marketing, brand building, for the kind of work that you do. You could be working for a company that has a public relations crisis. And the only way you can handle that is by having an effective communication strategy. Why do big companies everywhere have a communications post? They have a communications director, somebody who handles all this, handles the media, the press. If there's a crisis, they know what to do, who to call, what the message should be, what the statement should be. And if you guys are building a new business, and so many young people are trying to do that today, you need to do brand building, you need to do marketing. And if you don't know how to communicate well, then you're not going to be able to succeed. So that's in a nutshell why this is important. And you look at examples around the world, whether it's Bill Gates or a Tim Cook of Apple. These are all people who are great communicators and they've built big businesses around them. I mean, every year we look forward, to Apple unveiling its iPhones and its computers at their big events, and you see when Tim Cook comes on stage, and does these presentations and how effectively they communicate using video and audio and the way they speak. So that's what draws us to the brand, which itself is a very good brand. The products are also very good quality, but the first thing that lures people in is the way that they have marketed themselves and advertised and communicated to the wider audience. So that is in a nutshell why this is important. Coming to your specific question about language, etc. See, I think it doesn't matter whether you are an English speaker or a Hindi speaker or there is another language that you primarily communicate in. If you do it well and you know your language well and you are fluent in it, uh, it really doesn't matter. Of course, knowing English and being fluent and having a good command over it is very important in today's world. And in India, we have an education system left over from the British times that makes us largely a bilingual or a trilingual nation. You know, there's so many people who do speak English, but they also speak their own mother tongue. They'll speak Hindi also, and we have that advantage that a large section of our population understands English or is able to manage English, but it's not the only thing that matters. So I think the important thing is that whichever language you are comfortable in, I find some of the most effective communicators that I know, some of the most articulate people that I know are actually Hindi speakers. And they do it so well. You look at Ravish Kumar, for example, my former colleague from NDTV. He has such a phenomenal following on YouTube. But he's entirely a Hindi speaker. Ravish's English has never been his strong point, and he doesn't need it because he's so good. But I would suggest that whatever language you do choose to make your primary language, you should know it well. So if it is English, make sure you practice that you get the grammar correct, you get the pronunciation of words correct, because these things matter. Even if it's Hindi, it's the same rule. We don't like to hear people butchering a language. Language is important. So you must be fluent in that language. You must know how to pronounce words, make sure that your diction is good, etc. And once you've mastered that, then make that your strength and just go ahead. So don't worry too much about whether it's Hindi or English. To be bilingual is always a big advantage, and you may not have the perfect accent, or if you're, for example, primarily a Hindi speaking person, even if your English isn't 100%, but you make an effort and it's 80% good, that's great, because it's not your primary language. But make an effort. For me, I was never I didn't grow up in India, so my mother tongue is Kashmiri. Growing up, I knew English and Kashmiri, and I knew very little Hindi. Hindi I only started learning from the age of 13 when I came back to India. And I realized that if I want to be in broadcast journalism, I have to be bilingual. I cannot only be an English-speaking journalist. So I would read Hindi newspapers every Sunday. It was very, very boring, but I would read them, and I had a Hindi-English dictionary. So words I didn't understand, I would write them down and see what they mean. And I taught myself to make my Hindi diction better. Hindi is not it's not my mother tongue in that sense that it's not the language that instantly, I comes to me. But I made an effort, and I would say even if I'm 70% good in that, it helped me in my career. But at least I am 95% good in English, and I made that my strength. So I would just give this advice to everyone, that just make sure that whatever language you are proficient in, you're the best at it.
Thank you, Nidhi. Actually, I'm sure a lot of my students here would greatly benefit from the story that you talked about, how you put in efforts, hours of effort, picking something up that didn't come natural to you, which was not your mother tongue. You could be any language, but the kind of effort you put, because a lot of you think things come very easy, and to know that there has been this effort, like, the reason I'm saying this is because my next question is on this brand. You talked about Tim Cook, Steve Jobs. These were people who built brands, but they're also a brand in itself. And similarly, all these students who have joined for this session for you, and the limited airtime that you have got in a high pressure media industry. How were you able to command, and how did you make this brand of you using communication? How could you get to influence the vast audience you had?
That's very kind of you to say. I think that firstly, when you are in a profession like I have been in for almost 25 years, I don't think one should think of oneself as a brand. I think part of the problem I find with journalism today is that it's too much centered around personalities and less about the work that they are doing. And I think that it's very important for journalists to focus on their work and let their work speak for them. And if your work is good and you're doing it sincerely and bringing people, all kinds of points of view, then you're doing your job, and that's when people will respect you as a person also. I think that is the most important thing. So whatever work I did, it wasn't with that, okay, how do I build myself up, and um, how do I make a name for myself? It wasn't about me. It was about um, doing good stories, reporting, doing my job well, and then hoping that would lead to something in terms of a program, or a promotion, or a better time slot and things like that. So I think that it's really how you approach things that matter. And in a high pressure environment like the media and television in particular, you can't do it without a really good team that works with you. It's not about one person alone. And again, their communication becomes so important, because when you work in a profession where, and most professions are like that now, you are all going to work in a team. And having a good sort of relationship with your team members, working together, is so important. And you can't do that without being able to communicate with them. So I was lucky to work in an environment that promoted this kind of teamwork. And without everyone who worked with me, I would not be who I am. That's a fact. And I thank, all those people, in that newsroom, who made it possible to get these programs on air, to get our stories on air, whether it was the graphics designer, the producer, the news editor, the camera person. We are all, we are all important pieces of a big puzzle that came together in the end.
That's actually really beautiful to hear. And I'm sure would also be a space for a lot of students who think you said your work actually built who you are, and would speak for you. So a lot of them who's just in the beginning stage of their career, who kind of is clueless about what they want to say. So how do you think they can build on a voice for them?
I think the most important thing, firstly, is to know what is your passion. Okay. Uh, we are not always lucky to do the kind of jobs. You may not be always, your first choice may not always be what you end up doing. Let me put it that way. Because of various reasons, it might be that there's not a job opportunity or an opening right now, financial considerations are there. But whatever it is, you have to enjoy doing it. And if you don't have a passion for something, it will show and reflect in the way that you work. And that's just human nature. But I think that whatever you do, if you put if you are passionate about it, and and you have knowledge about it, I think knowledge is genuinely power. When you have knowledge and you understand a subject from, like, let's say you start a business on Instagram, baking, like that. A lot of people did that right after COVID. They and some of them have done really, really well. You started making pastries and cakes at home, and you're selling them now. And you have to be so passionate about it. You have to know everything about the ingredients and the different things that you're making. And if you really love what you're doing, it'll reflect in your work. And when you are in an office environment, or in an environment where you're dealing with, let's say, superiors, or you're working in a big company, and you want to speak up, again, knowledge is power. If there's something you are passionate about, and you have a question, or you have a doubt or a query, the important thing is that you should be able to walk up to your manager and be able to ask that question. A lot depends also on them and the kind of environment that they foster, that they should be able to encourage people to come and give them feedback, to talk to them. But I always suggest to young people, don't be afraid ever to express yourself, as long as it's done politely, and in a way that you get answers to your questions. Don't be afraid, because what's the worst that will happen? Somebody will say, I don't have an answer to your question, or I can't help you. ठीक है, we'll move on to the next thing. But if you don't gather the courage to speak up, then you will regret it at some point. So you have to look for the right opening, the right circumstances, but don't be afraid to ask a question. If you have a doubt, and if you don't know something, just say you don't know. It's okay, because we don't all know everything, and we don't all have to know everything. So if tomorrow you are asked to do a task, and you're asked, can you do this, but you don't know how to do it, just say, okay, can you help me? Can you tell me what is the best way to go about this? It's better to ask, get the right kind of advice, and implement a task properly than think that you'll try and do it yourself and mess it up, and and just not succeed at all. So don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of saying I don't know. Also, don't be afraid of saying I'm sorry, I made a mistake. This is really, really important, because I realize that a lot of people just think that it's somehow a weakness to admit that you were wrong. But it's not. It's actually a sign of strength and character. And if you have made a mistake, whether it is at work or something you may have said to a colleague or whatever it is, just own it and apologize for it. Because you will find that, actually, in my experience, 99.9% of the time, people really appreciate honesty and humility. So be, and this is all part of, again, communication. If you have made a mistake and you own up to it and say, I'm sorry, that was wrong, I shouldn't have done it, people will appreciate you for your honesty. And this is true, by the way, even in crisis communication, when something happens with a big company, like anything. Let's say there's a public relations disaster with an airline, and every day I read complaints about Indigo and Air India, kuch hua. I at least, it irritates me, when they reply to people on social media and say, okay, we'll get in touch with you. It's like a very standard robotic response, must be ChatGPT kind of response. But when they actually say, I'm sorry, then you feel, okay, at least they're owning up to their mistake. So that's true of your interpersonal relationships in your career, etc. as well. That, like I said, don't be afraid to ask a question. Don't be afraid to say you don't know. Don't be afraid to ask, how can I do this? Can you help me? And give me guidance. That's a good way to approach it, especially with other people in your organization. Can you help me? I need your advice. I need your guidance. And that I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't, I messed this up. I made a mistake. These are all different aspects of communication that will help you.
A lot of our youth is in social media. And so we already, like, our title is Influence 101. And we also have this whole species of people who are influencers. So how do they navigate that sort of a situation in which they do have a voice, but are not the popular voice, or is not popular in the space?
I come from a generation that grew up in the 80s and the 90s, where there was no internet also. And I'm so glad I grew up in a time when there was no pressure to be on Instagram and have, everything documented and liked, and all the stupid things we did in my childhood or in my young days, they have remained anonymous. So that's a good thing. Nobody was there to, take out a phone and film it. But I was reading a very interesting thing about social media use. And actually, more than the number of followers, it is the accounts that are more interactive with the number of followers that they have, which actually end up in the long term having a greater influence. And the reason is that you may have a number of followers who are just there, who are not really, invested in what you're saying, what you're selling, what you're trying to influence them for. But when you are actually engaging with your audience, and you are actually, in a two-way interaction with those who are on your page, they will keep coming back more and more. And there is a greater benefit from that. So if you have 2,000 followers instead of 10,000, but those 2,000 are actively engaged with you, ultimately, that is what will give your account, greater visibility. And it's a paradox, but this is, again, I'm not a social media expert, because it's not something that I myself, to be honest, am very good at doing, because I'm not consistent. And that is a lesson, actually, that I have to teach myself. One of the best ways to enhance your own presence on social media, especially if you're doing it for your work, etc., is to be consistently post. And I see that today doctors are doing it, others, people who are, who've set up businesses, etc. You have to post like literally every day. And you have to be really creative about it. You can't be like me. Please don't look at my account, and it's not a good example. It's a very bad example. Because I'll post like once in 10 days, or I'll post like, once a week, and I also have to learn to be much more engaged. So I think the key is not to get obsessed with the number of likes, but to make sure that you are actually having a two-way interaction with people. And I think also, please remember that social media is not the real world. And it doesn't, the number of likes you get, at some point that becomes very shallow if that's what you're chasing. And I know that it's a very different generation that's grown up in this age of sort of hyper, publicity, social media. You need to be seen to be doing things. I'll give you an example. I'm just horrified by how many people put their marriage proposals on social media. I don't understand this. I really don't. Maybe you guys think it's cool, but the guy gets down on his knee, and then there's some setup, and it's all like pre-planned, and I'm just like, why why does it all have to be played out like this? But chalo, to each their own. I'm just saying that life is much more than just how many likes you get. I think the idea is that you have to use social media, but create good content. And even if it's with fewer followers, you will find that ultimately your account will get better known if you engage, and it will also organically get more followers. So we don't want bots to be following us. We don't want people who don't care, who are just there. But create good content if that's what you enjoy doing, and don't get obsessed with social media. And remember, social media is an extension of what we do. Like it's meant to help, to enhance. It's not everything, unless your job is to influence, which is different. Then of course your whole approach to content creation, etc., consistency, being creative in what kind of reels you make, what you're saying. I'm fascinated actually how we all are, right, with Instagram reels and the kind of stuff people are putting out. It's so addictive. I watch, just like, people are just talking about, they're just sitting here like you and I are sitting, and they'll be talking about random things like what they cooked today, and it's so interesting. Acha, aapne lauki banai, like, so that's my limited take on communication on social media, basically.
Thank you, Nidhi. But I also do think that now that with the rise of alternate media and because I even see you come up. I don't agree with you that you are not using the space, and I believe that you're using the space quite mindfully and with the right content.
Not as much as I should be. If I really want to push myself, I should be posting much more, but I don't, because I'm very honestly, I don't like social media very much. I find it to be a very toxic space, particularly for women. But it can also be a fun space. So it really depends on how you approach it. Everything has good and bad. But I realize that today you can't do things without using social media as a tool for anything, for communication, for brand building, whatever it is. So you have to find a way to work with it. And I need to improve on that myself.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. I'm going to combine some of them. So one that I've got is, was there a time when you had to say the right thing under pressure? Maybe in a breaking news moment or a tough conversation. How did you handle it? And what did you do to stay calm and clear while that situation happened?
I don't know what you mean by saying the right thing under pressure, because if it's the right thing, it shouldn't need to be said under pressure.
Maybe a tough conversation. That's what it is.
But that's the nature of the profession I was in. You often had live situations with guests, topics, subjects, where it could be very sensitive, controversial, and you might find you have a guest who has said very offensive things, and it's live, you can't do anything about it. So you are actually trained to just react to everything calmly, not lose your own cool. as far as possible, and just respond to anything with facts. Ensure that there are no personal attacks taking place. Push back on that. Don't allow the conversations to degenerate. There are so many examples. I mean, I can't think of anything, one example off the top of my head, but I think in a live high pressure situation like that, we were always trained to just dial it down, to be calm, to not become the story ourselves as much as possible, but try to shift the focus back to the subject at hand. And if it's the right thing, then you would never be under pressure to say it. Like I said right at the beginning, you just say it because it's the right thing to say or do.
So I think we'll have to close with one last question. And it is both from the student side and from mine. So what's one practical tip that you want to leave us with on becoming better at communication and growing influence? Like one thing that we can start doing today. It's my student's question, but I also have the same question.
Make short videos. You all have phones, right? Like we all have phones at home, and uh, just make short videos of yourself. Like do 30-second videos on any subject, speak, and then go back and watch yourself and see how you're doing. Do you like the way you look? Do you like the way you are sounding? Are your sentences constructed well? Are you looking confident? Are you sounding confident? Is your language correct? And communication, especially when you are in an audiovisual medium, how you dress, how you look, your posture, hand movements, everything matters. And I think the advantage we have today is that with smartphones and a little tripod you get on Amazon, you just put it on, record yourself, and look at look at how you are presenting yourself, and practice. Like if you have a presentation to give in an office tomorrow, or you have an assignment, practice that presentation at home, record it and play it back and see, and ask yourself, if I was a third person watching this, would I be interested in this? Where can I improve? Especially if you have good teachers around you whom you can show your work to, do that. It's very, very important to practice. Everybody needs to do it. Like I am now anchoring a YouTube show every week, but I sit and do my research. I plan out how, I want, what kind of questions I want to ask. It can't all be impromptu. Even today, after 25 years, preparation is key. And to be good communicators, preparation is very, very key. So whether it is, if it's an idea you want to pitch, if it's a speech that you're giving, be prepared. Be prepared and practice. Take a phone, record yourself, and have a look. It's a very simple thing to do. It'll give you more and more confidence. The more you do it, the more you speak up, the more confident you will be. Everything in life ultimately is about experience and practice. And the more you keep quiet, like I said, that Jobs report really stunned me. Poor communication skills are holding back 50% of our graduates from getting good jobs. And there's no reason for that to happen. In a country like ours, where we have so many strengths, so much fluency in all kinds of languages, etc., exposure to, so many different cultures and experiences. So I think just doing these little things every day can help.
Thank you, Nidhi. Actually, thank you so much for these insights. And I agree with you. And also because that's a reason why here at IILM we look to offer the communication course across other disciplines. Like for a BTech student, like an engineer, what good is an engineer without a communication skill? What good are doctors if they cannot communicate empathetically with their patients? So for every profession, as you said, thanks for sharing the report and the data. It's very crucial, and I'm so happy to know that we are one step ahead in putting the subjects of social sciences, liberal arts, humanities, communication, etc. We're embedding it to multiple courses, including business, as I said, technology, engineering, etc. Thank you so much. And I've, on behalf of IILM University Greater Noida and my students here and the other audience, I thank you so much for your valuable insights we surely take lot of takeaways from this session, and especially I will go with the last one on preparation. When you said even after 25 years of your career you still prepare, and not take things lightly, and it's so beautiful and so honest of you to share that with us. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who's joined us here. This is just a start of this whole series on voice of influence. We promise to bring you amazing speakers like Nidhi, who have powerful experience and ideas to share with you. So tune here for more. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.